floor is open for questions and comments, if I can find my glasses.
Does anyone have a question?
Yeah,
Is your talk written down?
yeah,
Do you have a paper that you could, because
Could you stand up?
yeah.
some of it was hard to understand, even though I'm in the second row. And I would like to read it.
I have a text.
Okay,
We can post the text
that would be good.
as well as the video that we're making.
Thank
You're
you.
making a video?
Yes.
Yes, will be shown here?
We'll put it on YouTube and you can watch it in the library.
Good.
Yeah,
During your
can't
career,
hear you.
if during your career through the
Yeah.
years, wasn't that a time of significant development of drugs and medication? And did that play a significant part in the field of psychiatry?
Wait.
This is the period during which occurred the addiction of psychiatry. Let me put it very bluntly. Actually, psychiatry went from one extreme to the other. It went from the analytics, from the notion that the analysts had the answers, and they talked endlessly, and then the drug pushers took over, pushed the analysts out, and have been running the field ever since. And they've run it into the ground.
I have a question. You mentioned that there were 3 recent papers from Europe
Yeah.
about continuity of care. Why do you suppose Europe is enlightened and the United States
I
isn't?
couldn't find any from the United States. The basic thing is that the drug companies control psychiatry. Have controlled it for years.
In this country more than
In this country.
more than in Europe.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Professor, you said you went through analysis.
Yeah.
I would like to know your opinion about that.
I spent 4 years on the couch, 2 years with one guy and 2 years with another. I got a little out of it. Mostly it was a waste of time. That's what I feel about it now.
Can you tell us a bit?
I can't hear you.
Stand, can you stand?
No.
No.
I'm sorry?
Can you tell us about it now? Why the 2+2 were not
Why I had 2 analysts?
productive?
Why I had 2 analysts?
No, why you spent that and felt that the 4 years that you had.
It was part of training.
The psychoanalytic the course, comprehensive course in psychoanalysis. It's a 4-year course, 2 evenings a week. Involved lectures and personal analysis. The personal analysis was a prerequisite of the course.
Can you tell us where it was?
To be certified as a psychoanalyst, you had to go through psychoanalysis yourself. That's what happened. And that's why. I would never have done it otherwise. Yeah.
The fact is that psychotropic medication has helped a lot of people. And
That's why there's so many people in trouble today.
well,
The
but-
medication, anything can help. Anything given by a doctor, including toxic substances, may help a patient because there's an impact, the positive impact of the doctor.
but isn't that sort of indication that there is some kind of maybe unknown physiological connection chemically
How long are they
with the
going to be
brain?
looking for these unknowns?
Forever.
50 years? Compare what's happened in psychiatry with what's happened in any other part of medicine. Psychiatry has been looking in the wrong place. They've been looking for brain disease instead of mind disease. And there's a difference between the brain and the mind. The mind is a social structure, is socially constructed. And you deal with mind problems by social interactions. And it's a very fundamental thing, a difference which has been lost sight of. the fundamental difference between mind and brain. Neurology is not psychiatry. Yeah.
But hasn't psychiatry basically been looking at emotional disease, not necessarily mind or brain?
What's emotion? Emotion is what is mind.
Not necessarily.
Emotion is a fundamental part of the mind.
I remember once you defined or quoted someone as defining psychiatry as the study of relationships. You remember that?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we are social animals, and what goes on in our heads is a reflection of our interaction with other people. If those interactions are positive, they are healing. If the interactions are negative, they are harmful. The emotions are kind of the signals through which we navigate our relationships and our lives. And emotions are our signals for how we should react, how we should respond. I'm getting fuzzy.
Yeah, I want to ask
Yeah.
a question. I saw a movie last week called The Bad Seed,
Oh,
and in that movie,
Awful.
there was a lot of discussion about the mother was completely distraught because she said she must have gotten it from her. Let's assume she either did or she didn't. Are we assuming that if the child was taken to see a psychiatrist, even if it was a bad seed, could psychiatry do something about it?
I think one of the things in psychiatry, one of the problems in psychiatry has been the assumption that things out of the long past are really determinative and unchangeable. I mentioned before what I think is one of the errors of analysis, that childhood experience is responsible for personal destiny. In my own experience, that has been only rarely the case. My figure offhand figures something like 10% of the problems I saw in practice were primarily out of childhood. Most of them are current. And as I said, in terms of my own experience, my own dreadful experience as a hospital patient, they were looking for my troubles in my childhood, when the reason that I broke down was because of current experiences, current harassment, which I did not deal with properly. And I insisted on this with my psychiatrist, and they systematically ignored it. The harassment of people for political reasons, which is something that happened to me, is something which occurs and with which psychiatrists are often less than useful. Yeah.
How much did you think the pharmaceutical companies had to do with the diagnosis, treatment of?
Which one?
Well, I'll give you a choice, 95 to 99.
What was the question?
The question was, to what extent are pharmaceutical companies responsible for the situation that I described? My answer was 95 to 99%. Not an exact figure, though. And I think that the use of drugs, the promiscuous use of drugs, particularly it's bad enough when the psychiatrists use it, when the general practitioners pass them out like chocolates, because if somebody's upset, they take a pill. I think this is horrendous, and it undermines an individual's ability to deal with ability to deal with the real problems facing them. Yeah.
Could you use a microphone, please?
Can't hear you.
use a microphone.
Use your microphone.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I think
My apologies.
what you just said was a paraphrase of the punchline in Super Spy, which many of you saw, which is, "Don't be a pill, take one." You remember that?
Okay. Advertisement. Can you hear me? Yes, you can hear me. Any other
Are there more
comments?
questions?
Questions? Objections? Disagreements?
Not at all.
Do they still operate on the brain by removing a lobe or whatever?
Lobotomy, you mean?
Uh, The use of neurosurgery to deal with psychiatric problems has rose, fell, and I think has risen a little bit lately. But it's not very important now. They have drugs that do the same thing. Any other comments, suggestions, objections, agreements, disagreements? Peanuts, lemonade?
The person who was written up in the article, is there no place on earth for me?
Yes.
Wasn't she, someone else in her family was very well known. I don't remember how or why, but I was thinking if there was a semi-prominent member of the family, did that family sue for that girl?
I don't think that suit would have much chance of success because she got the standard treatment. Incidentally, one of the Kennedy children
Yes,
had a lobotomy,
right.
which is a horror. I mean, the advances of psychiatry have sometimes been backwards, particularly in that regard. And they had it available to them, the finest psychiatric thinking of the day in the Kennedy family. And that's why that poor woman was subjected to this horrendous operation.
That was when? Sometime
Oh,
ago.
in the 20s or 30s.
That's what I meant.
Pardon?
That is exactly what I meant. I wanted to know your opinion about that. Now, you confirmed it, it was horrendous.
Horrendous.
Right.
I do feel, however, that in the
Well,
right
I can't hear you.
hands.
Can you stand up,
I
Phil?
feel, however, in the right hands, the combination of continuity plus knowledgeable use of drugs, certain drugs have been found effective. I don't mean totally, I don't mean by themselves, but as a supplement to.
Drugs can be useful, particularly when people are upset. If they're very upset, drugs can be useful in calming people down. I think that any prolonged use of drugs is wrong. And I'm talking from my own experience. When I was hospitalized, they hit me with drugs, they knocked the hell out of me. Matter of fact, I kept a diary of how crazy I was feeling, and I tongued half of it, and after 2 weeks, because I objected, and because I happened to be a doctor, and my cousin happened to be one of the wheels on the hospital staff, they discontinued the medication for me. And I became clear, and then I knew what I had to do to recover, and I did. But the complications of our treatment are often very considerable. Yeah.
Is electroshock treatment a means of helping a patient use these days?
Electroshock harms the brain. It knocks out brain cells, it harms them. It does help people sometimes. I've seen it. My own thinking of it is great reluctance, but not absolute prohibition. Because I've seen people who benefited significantly from it, even if they had some brain injury as a result of it. So on that question, I cannot take a firm stand. I recognize its harmfulness. I recognize the fact that it can be useful.
Thank you.
Do you have any opinion on why it helped some?
Some.
I think it kind of shakes up, well, I think it destroys recent memory patterns and allows older ones to come back. That's my guess. Yeah.
As a member of the Cultural Arts Committee, thank you, Dr. Lehrman. And we'd like you all to know that we'd love to continue this series of lectures. And therefore, if you have anything of interest, please be good enough to come to anyone on the committee, and we'd love to help you get started. Thank you for coming.